Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Well, it's time for another market update to see what is going on in the trucking industry week over week. As always, we're going to look at what's happening with the number of MC numbers or capacity, what's happening with diesel prices, volumes, rejections. We'll look at ELP, out of service orders once again, and then we'll go into specifics for dry vans, reefers, and flatbeds to see how the spot market is changing for those three equipment types. Ready? Let's go. As always, all the charts will be right here, so let's go ahead and get started. So in terms of volume, general volume, not just spot market volume, that decreased 3.01% week over week. But rejections did see an uptick of 1.17% and now are at around 5.21%. Again, for those who do not know what rejections are, this is when contract carriers say they cannot haul a load that they were contracted to haul. And that load, if enough contract carriers say no, it ends up on the spot market, increasing those spot volumes. Now, in terms of spot volume week over week, if we're comparing 2 weeks ago to last week, that decreased by a little bit over 10%. And the spot rates for all equipment types, if we're talking about all of them together, those didn't see any change whatsoever. All right, now in terms of the net change in carrier authorities. So as you can see, there was actually a nice decrease this week. We lost 243 carriers net week over week. And if you guys are interested in seeing how that happened, well, here is a chart. The red line is total gained, the green line is total lost, and then the orange line is the net carriers. Less carriers gained, more carriers lost week over week. Therefore, the net change is negative. All right, let's take a look at what's happening with those ELP out of service orders. So as you can see, here's the chart. For a while there, it looked like it was trending upwards. And then from July 20th to August 1st or so, started trending downwards. But yeah, as of August 12th, 94 out of service orders written. Now, if we compare ELP violations in blue to out of service orders in pink, this is for any carrier who is not border zone, right? As a reminder, border zone carriers are actually not supposed to get an out of service order for an ELP violation. What you can see is that those two lines are almost in sync, right? Not quite 100% of ELP violations result in out of service orders, but they're pretty in sync. And if you want to see the percentage, here we go. It has been more towards the higher percentage as of July 25th or so, but not always hitting 100%. As of August 12th, it was 77.05%. All right, let's take a look at our map to see where do those out of service orders happen, which states are more likely to give an out of service order for English language proficiency or the lack thereof. Texas is on first place, Wyoming is on second place. Oh, and anything that is not colored, like New Mexico and New Hampshire, there were no out of service orders issued there, but California is now at 2, right? A week ago, it was just 1. Now they're at 2. I'm sure some officer is in trouble right now. But if we want to take a look at the top 10 states issuing those out of service orders, Texas is by far leading, followed by Wyoming, Tennessee, Arizona. Arkansas and Colorado are both at 111, Iowa, Missouri, Utah, and Oklahoma. Which carriers are more likely to get an ELP out of service order? Well, it's also Texas. No one from Montana, Alabama, New Hampshire, or Maine got an out of service order. And if we take a look at the bar chart, we can see that, of course, Texas leads, followed by carriers from Illinois, California, Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Colorado, New Jersey, Georgia, and North Carolina. Those are the carriers' base states that are more likely to get those out of service orders. All right, let's take a look at what's happening with diesel. So good news week over week. Diesel is actually 2.2 cents lower than this time last week, currently at an average of $3.72 per gallon. It is, however, 1.4 cents higher than last month, but still 4.3 cents lower than last year. Now, this is our diesel map price at the pump. Here is August 14th. And if we compare it to August 7th, there we go. Now let's do this for a minute. And you can see that it did get lighter in some areas, meaning that diesel did actually go down. Now, still, California, Washington, Oregon are the most expensive states to purchase that diesel. Without IFTA, raw diesel prices mimic pretty much to the T the price at the pump, and this is last week. Also got lighter week over week. All right, let's take a look at the spot market changes for dry vans, reefers, and flatbeds. So the first two lines are what the spot rate was averaging at 2 weeks ago. The second line is what it was last week. And we can see dry vans lost about 1 cent per mile, reefers gained 2 cents per mile, and flatbeds stayed flat for the second week in a row. Year over year, both dry vans and reefers are seeing higher rates by about 1%, whereas flatbeds are seeing 0.4% lower rates. Volume changes from 2 weeks ago to last week is negative for all three equipment types. Dry vans saw the biggest decrease in volumes, followed by flatbeds, and then reefers. And year over year, again, only flatbed is seeing more volume, 27% up, whereas dry vans are seeing 4% less volume than last year, and reefers are seeing 15% less volume. And here is a running chart to show you how the rate has changed over time. Green is flatbed, blue is reefer, orange is dry van. And reefer is still above flatbed, and dry van is still below flatbed. Flatbed is somewhere in the middle. All right, let's take a look at what's happening with dry vans in terms of loads. So this is August 14th. Most of the loads come out of Texas, 2,364 loads, followed by California. This is August 7th. And if we do this a little bit, so this is what we're seeing. We see that some areas saw an increase in volumes for dry vans. Now, what about those load to truck ratios? This is August 14th. North Dakota has 2.61 loads per truck. Vermont has 2.13 loads per truck. Everything else is under 2 loads per truck. Again, doesn't mean that North Dakota is the place to be. The volume is lacking there. But let's compare it to last week. So you can see that certain areas got worse, like Nevada, for example, and then certain areas got better, right? Like North Dakota and Vermont. Missouri got a little bit better for dry vans. All right, time to readjust and take a look at what's happening with those reefers. So these are the loads this week as of August 14th, and you can see the most loads are actually coming out of California, followed by Texas, Illinois, and Pennsylvania. Now, this is what it looked like last week. So compared to last week, there are some areas that definitely got a little bit darker, which means more volumes for reefers on that spot market. In terms of load to truck ratios, this is what it looks like right now. Looks like Idaho is at the top, 6.44 loads per truck, followed by North Dakota, 5.38 loads per truck. This is what it looked like last week. North Dakota definitely got worse. But if we do this for a minute, we can see that, yeah, again, just like with dry vans, some areas got better, some areas got worse. Finally, last but not least, what is going on with those flatbeds? Well, this is the load map, and as you can see, most of the loads come out of Texas, almost 5,000, followed by Mississippi, around 4,000. This is the map last week. So for flatbeds, if we compare week over week, yeah, volumes got lighter this week compared to last week for flatbeds. And in terms of the load to truck ratio, of course, Mississippi is still the darkest with 9.16 loads per truck, followed by Alabama, 5.47 loads per truck. If we compare it to last week, we can see that actually Arkansas and Louisiana got worse. Mississippi got a little bit better. Alabama got a little bit better. And I would say Oregon and Washington stand out here. But yeah, for sure, Arkansas and Louisiana got a little bit worse. So, in terms of data versus experience, unfortunately, not much to share. I did get lucky with one of my trucks getting him out of California for a pretty doable rate per mile to a good area. We are running in the South and Midwest. This is where we aim to be because this is where negotiations are a little bit easier. There are more loads there, there's more to choose from. And it's kind of less problematic to try and find a load that fits where you can actually earn at least a little bit of money. But I'm curious to hear how your week went. Did you notice anything different? Did you see an increase in volumes? Was it easier? Was it more challenging? Curious to hear your thoughts. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining and watching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning. See you in the next video.